Hey, everybody. This is Gimbalabs Playground. It's the 30th of January, 2024. We get together every Tuesday at 1800 UTC to build stuff together or to hear proposals from people who have project ideas or just to get together and refine ideas. I'll show you just quickly, instead of the Miro board today, this is gimbalabs.com/playground. So anybody can go take a look at this page. You can see a little bit about what we do here, when we meet, and you can click a link right here to register via Zoom. There's a link to previous recordings of Gimbalabs Playground here, and there's a link to the Miro board that we typically use, so you can check this out. If you ever want to present at a Playground meeting, you can just drop right into this Miro board. You can find an empty line on the agenda, and you can add your name, what you want to present on, and some contact information. Over the next few weeks, we got some good ones. The Marlowe team from IOG is presenting the latest on Marlowe and some calls to action for how people can start to get involved with that. And then Alex is presenting Tarek's next 2 weeks later. Psyched about that one. Thanks for taking this one. Looks like in March, we've got Newman talking about games. Excellent. And there's a few open slots, February 27th and March 5th. If you see one that's gray, that means there won't be Playground that week. And then over here, this is just the typical agenda. We spend a few minutes welcome and getting started. We jump into a presentation. And people use this presentation for all sorts of different things, whether it's giving a product pitch, sharing an idea that they want to refine, or just starting a conversation about something you've been thinking about. Often, it's some combination of all of the above. And these are the rules for signing up. I just showed you there's a chart in this Miro board off at the left. Just find an empty slot, write in your info, and that is it. There's no servers here other than Miro, I guess. There's no database. We're not going to send you a reminder email. If you put yourself on this calendar, you're officially signed up, and we're excited to see you here. So that's how this works. Now, today, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're actually going to work on a project that a network of people has been working on together. And I need to switch to my, there we go. Pull that in. Going to be moving back and forth between the code editor and the browser today. So a lot of you have heard about Mesh. Let's go to that website. Okay, so Mesh is a JavaScript, TypeScript development library. You can install it with NPM, or you can create a template using NPX, and you can start building applications that work with Cardano. This has been covered in the Plutus PBL course from Gimbalabs, and a lot of folks here have at least a little bit of experience using Mesh. If you don't, we're going to get started with it today. Now, as part of a Catalyst proposal, the Mesh team was approved to build a course about how the Mesh.js library works. And so we're working right now on a targeted Mesh PBL course. This will be independent from Plutus PBL, which we've provided previously, and it's really going to focus on Mesh development. Not only that, but as people work through this course, they'll have opportunities to start contributing back. And so this right here, this is a prototype of the Andamio platform. You can see the course management part here. Now, if I actually click in to start Mesh PBL, you're going to see an error. And that's because right now, Dandelion is down. But as you can see, it's all connected, right? We built on our own decentralized infrastructure. We're in the process of upgrading Dandelion. And we have some exciting steps coming up on this right now, but I just want to show you that these tools rely on each other. So you can't actually see the course homepage this moment, but later today, or if you're watching this video, you'll be able to see this page later on. So I can't go into the details there right now, but we can jump to the modules page. Whoops. This. And we can see the course. So this is what a course looks like in this current Andamio prototype. What we're not looking at right now is the treasury and contribution management side. That's coming. We really want to focus for today on the learning platform. And so when you enter the course, you can navigate via, you know what? There's been an update to Zoom, and it's been making it really hard to click on things. This is weird. Has anybody else experienced that they can't use websites when they're streaming from Zoom lately? Or is this just on my end? It's frustrating. Give me a second. Let's try it again. Yeah, it works just fine when I'm not streaming it. Let's try it again and hope for the best. This is one of those bugs. This one just showed up yesterday, and I haven't had a chance to troubleshoot it yet. All right, so module 100 is simply some prerequisites, and we're not going to spend too long on this one today. The 3 learning targets, right? In order to participate in this course, you're going to need a browser wallet. You're going to be building with Node.js, right? That's the JavaScript runtime that pretty much all JavaScript developers are using. And we're going to be using a bit of React, so it's going to be helpful to be familiar with that. And there's just a message down here, right? I think this is a pattern that's going to be likely in many education experiences. We always want to be open to anybody who comes along, but we also don't want to bog people down in getting started. So lesson 101 can be skipped. If you already have one of these wallets installed, like I'm assuming a lot of people here do, lesson 101, or sorry, 100.1, you can skip right over that. If you've ever done any JavaScript development and you have Node.js already, you can skip over lesson 100.2. And if you're familiar with the essentials of React, you can skip 100.3. But we're trying to provide just enough so that anybody who doesn't have these prerequisites is supported to do this. And I guess this is the first question I wanted to bring to everybody here at Playground today is, if we're trying to educate broadly, what's the most effective way to think about prerequisites? Is it the responsibility of Mesh PBL to teach people how wallets work and how Node.js works? Or are we more effective if we assume people have that basic knowledge? What do you think about this approach, and what would you change?
Can I contribute a little bit, James?
Of course, Bernard, thank you.
Yeah, I was a teacher for 20 years, or 20 to 25 years. I taught in the primary school, in the high school, and I taught at the university level. What is happening here, your question touches a lot of things. A lot of people who are technically good do not have a methodology to make sure that, and they do not, what you call, have that teaching empathy to think like a student. All what they are doing is they are concentrating on the technical part, and they do it very well. But quite a lot, number one, they do not have outcome objectives to achieve, which is the first error. They can do a 1 hour, 1.5 hour presentation. Interesting, very nice. We clap our hands. We go home impressed. But when we get home, we can't even start. When you try even to do this, you find that that technology that was presented to you has got prerequisites which were assumed by the presenter, but the presenter never presented it to the audience. Unlike when you have got students, you create outcomes and you list all the prerequisites. If I'm doing a computer science third year, I know who I am delivering to, that the prerequisite is computer science second year for you to qualify into this. So what I would suggest is, let's have all the prerequisites and then say, if you do not have this, go and start there. It will eliminate all the frustrations because people can jump into where, number one, it's not only JS, it is even about the operating system they are going to use. Number two, it is about Node, about the dependencies, the bundlers. And again, when they are there, before even they come to Cardano, the libraries also have got their dependencies and they have got different versions. So all this creates a very stressful environment for a person who is interested in getting onto Next.js and do something quickly. So that is why I would say, don't undermine listing prerequisites, even if it means list the hardware prerequisites. I think that will eliminate a lot. The last point is, you must always aim that your students, at least 50%, are able to achieve your outcomes. If less, you've got 1 or 5% of the students achieving your outcomes, it means something was wrong somewhere. Because the 95%, the 98%, they will go away. They will never come back. Or if you go to step 2, they will never cope. In our traditional academic environment, we ensure that at least as a minimum, a 50% of my outcomes are achieved by at least 50% of the attendees or the students. So all these things from my side, they are very important. Thank you.
So good to have you here, Bernard. Thanks. I want to pass it to Alex before picking up a few of those points. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just Bernard was talking about teaching, and your question and Bernard's what Bernard was saying resonated with my personal experience, because some may know, some may not know. I think I taught about 2,000 people or so, like sailing, kiteboarding, and it's pretty. In some ways, it's very the same as we teach anything else, and in many ways, it's of course different. So like in a way that it's different, for example, Bernard says like 50-50 with like success rates and like performance on the metrics. For me, when I teach students, well, again, you know, I'm not in the Olympics team, but well, when I'm teaching like my students, what I say is like, if you can do it 3 times out of 10, you're ready to kind of, you should try something else, right? It's a bit hard for the students because kiteboarding is tricky and you can get crashed. So like if you do a trick 3 times out of 10, probably you should but not exactly. Like diversity is very important. But what's most important and what I liked about Bernard said, like the best way to know is to let a student try. And when they fumble, like we figured this out with Nix, because like just questions were popping up one after another. And in developer experience working group the same, like Nix. So yeah, I wouldn't say that there's any sense in teaching Node.js because there's a lot of material. So, and I have actually this similar question to what you are describing, because my idea of an impactful contribution to Cardano could be in also like PBL, but from the point of view of not the front end, but of what's going behind the scenes, because collaboration with the certification working group and the ideas about how we can make software secure. And this comes to the point of like how we are able to describe what our software does. But yeah, back to the problem, I don't want to go too far. There's like project management, and there's like Creative Commons, or not Creative Commons, common criteria, right? Two different kinds of language, and they intersect in different way, but not exactly. And like, what knowledge I should assume and what knowledge I shouldn't assume, this is pretty interesting work to do, and it's not very active at the moment, but I like this question, and I'd like to follow like what's going on and why and how.
Oh man, that's the thing I really wanted to pick up from what Bernard was saying, and thanks for pulling on that thread, right? So we've been talking about building a global trust network of people who have figured stuff out, right? Who know and are able to do things. They've learned, they can contribute. And one of the coolest things about networks is that they have a very different shape from hierarchies, right? At a hierarchy, you always kind of know that you're moving one direction. I'm trying to move up it, right? And in a network, you enter a network wherever you do at some given node, and you can always move beyond, right, to the next opportunity, or you can move backwards to the prerequisites, or you can move sideways when you want to apply what you know so far, but maybe learn a different domain or try something new. And so the way stakeholders move through a network is fundamentally different from the way they move through a hierarchy. And here we might be focused on one of the ways that people move through a network, which has a lot of things in common with the hierarchy, right? Okay, you're going to learn how mesh works so that you can be a contributor to projects where you use it. That's necessary, but I think insufficient. And so to think about this concept of prerequisites, and Bernard, I love what you said about, we don't want to create experiences where people finish the class or take the test or give the presentation and everybody gives them a round of applause, but then they go home and they can't use everything they learned. That's exactly what we're trying to push back against. We want to make sure that we're providing the scaffolding so that people can take everything they're learning and actually use it in the problems they want to solve, right? But prerequisites are such an important part of that. And so as we start to construct this network, it can't always be only looking ahead. It can also look backwards. Hey, we found out that there needs to be a really good course about using Cardano wallets. We don't have that course yet. Can we incentivize somebody to build it? There's a lot of information about Node.js out there on the web, and maybe it's good enough. But does somebody want to build an introduction to JavaScript, TypeScript, and Node that's especially fine-tuned for certain types of contributors? Could we incentivize the creation of that course? Or hardware requirements like Bernard mentioned, or just less on the node side, but maybe more on what Alex has been studying around kind of the Haskell side or the Nix environment side. It would be really great to have those courses. At a network level, what's the appetite for those courses? Is there funding for those courses that's sufficient to make it worth it? Right? Because it's, as we all know, it's one thing to work really hard on learning something, but where is the incentive to share that knowledge? Can we start to build it? So Joram, some of these notes are for you too, as we're thinking about this trust network that we're talking about, moving in both directions across it, right? Forwards to contribution, backwards to prerequisites, sideways to other collaborations, and sending signals about what's needed. I think that's a really important thing for us to be looking at. Okay, so I don't know if these prerequisites are sufficient, and Bernard, well noted. Let's work on building the best foundation of prerequisites we can in the long term. Okay. Any other thoughts before we take a look? So jumping briefly into these lessons, and be sure to stop me anytime. We've already got a video for the first lesson right here. Z recorded this one, some of you know him. And this is a brief one about installing a browser wallet. It still might be too brief, and maybe it could use more detail. But here's a place where we can work as a network to keep leveling up everything, even this entry knowledge right here.
That was Chorus, man. Chorus, the videos was made by Chorus.
This
Chorus
one?
Yeah. Chorus
Oh, in an old PBL course, that's true. This is a brand new one from Z.
Okay.
Yeah, he just made a brand new one, and he even had this card here. So I got to get this title card for the other videos. But yeah, so this is what we've got. Anybody can read through this one, and this is a live URL right here. So let me make sure everybody's got this. If you want to follow along and explore on your own, there it is. Okay, next lesson doesn't have a video yet. This is the one about Node.js. And we're probably going to skip the video for this one for now. But if anybody wants to contribute to this or think about how to make this more accessible, you can. But it should look pretty familiar if you've seen this before, right? A quick installation of Node and npm. You can check the version. Maybe like Bernard said, one thing I do want to edit here is we should show people the minimum version they should expect. So I'd like to add that. Quick notes on Visual Studio Code for different operating systems, some helpful extensions. And then we want to make sure people are up and running on GitHub because we will be using it in this course. And I guess we hit Node.js again. That's a little extra. So this is how we're treating those prerequisites. Is this hitting the mark based on just the high-level view I'm giving you here? Or do you think there's additional resources that we could share here? Right, so let's get to some of the deeper stuff. This is open for review, and if anybody ever has feedback, please be sure to share. Gimbalabs Discord is a great place for that. Now, React is a huge topic, and you can take entire courses about this as well. What you can see on my screen is that there's a 4-minute video introducing just the basics. This one's also from Z. So we obviously this course is not about React itself, but what's kind of interesting is once people get into it, they might pick up some tricks about how React works along the way. And I'm willing to assume that people will get better at React development by working through this course. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. But we want to give people at least an entry point. So anybody who's never used it before, here's a beginner's blog. There's some basics about Next.js, which is the framework that's built on top of React that we're using in this course. And then the React tutorial has been improved pretty dramatically recently. About a year or two ago, React released a new documentation site, and so you can see that here. So very brief. Any thoughts on this approach right here? So finally, we jump into assignments. Now, here's how assignments work in Andamio. We have learners represented on chain, and this is still a prototype of how learner tokens work. We're finishing off a more general level access token right now, and I'm really excited to share that with everybody when we're ready. That should be in the next month or two. But for now, we can use course-specific learner tokens. Those can be minted from here. And if I show you my Nami wallet on pre-prod, you'll see that I do have a Mesh PBL token minted right here. Mesh.js PBL, there it is. Shout out to Felix for making this little image for us. So we kind of have that NFT functionality, but what's much more interesting is that this token picks up information along the way. Now you can actually, if you already clicked on the link that I gave you, if you navigate to where we are, assignment 100, then this button will get you to the learner dashboard, and you'll see that it's actually going to, you see in the, for some reason, some of these links don't work when I'm running Zoom. And this is, again, this is a brand new problem. Sorry, everybody. A little frustrated by that. Okay. Well, in any case, you could try this on your own. And as it turns out, you are able to mint one of these learner tokens right now on pre-prod if you want to play around with it. But the dashboard is not quite going to display as it's supposed to, because we're just upgrading Dandelion GraphQL today. Okay, so temporarily, this is going to tell you that you have minted a token, but it's going to give you an error message. And that's just because of the infrastructure that we're using under the hood is being improved. But what's an assignment? Once you have one of these learner tokens, what you're able to do is you're able to commit to assignments. Okay. And this commitment piece also doesn't work. You'll see right here, it says the module is not yet on chain. Our front end thinks this because it's not getting the right information from Dandelion right now. So as soon as we get that fixed, you'll be able to see that this assignment is available for commitment on chain, and you can follow these steps to give it a try. And up through this point, we've covered all of this at a prior playground, I think back in December. Okay, so this gets us up to speed on where we've been. Any questions at this point? All right, so let's jump to the main event. Module 101 is where we say, okay, well, now we're done with the prerequisites. Let's jump into the action and actually get started with Mesh.js. First things first, hopefully you can see that this module page is just like the one at the start of 100. Here's the learning targets. Here's an outline of the lessons we're going to cover and a little introduction. Okay. So these are our goals for what we're going to accomplish. We want you to be able to integrate Mesh into a new project. We'd like you to be able to connect a browser wallet to a dApp. We'd like you to be able to see information about your wallet or any connected wallet here in the web browser. And we'd like you to start to learn how Mesh React hooks work, right? So there's some React functionality that's built directly into Mesh. And as you'll see today, this makes it pretty convenient to start building. Nice, thanks, Claudio. Glad you have that already. And we're going to start to make that useful over these next few weeks. So let's just jump into lesson 101.1. So what do we have here? It says, in this section, you'll learn how to start a project integrated with Mesh.js using two methods. First, we can set up a project from scratch following the steps below, and we'll read through those. And then the second way to do it is there's a really easy starter template. And so I'm actually going to skip over module 1 first and show you how quick method number 2 is, okay? Oh, and you can see here's a little to-do that snuck through the cracks. I'll update that link. But right here, Mesh provides a set of templates that are ready to go. So let's actually go there first. And this is the link that should be here in Get Started. Second, gotta navigate off screen. Now let's try that again. All right, so this is the Mesh.js starter templates page. And what you can do is you can select any of these. And when you do, down below, the command right here is updating in real time. Okay, so if I choose stake pool instead, you'll see that the title of the project is staking, and it's drawing on different templates each time. So there's all sorts of incredible boilerplate that's just free and ready for anybody to use right here. Okay, great docs. I really recommend checking those out. And so you can see this command right here, npx create mesh app, with the word starter here. This is going to match what you would see if you chose the starter template here. Right? Create mesh app with the starter template. So this is the quick way to get started. And it really is this simple, right? In your terminal window, you run this command, you can switch into that directory, and just like that, you're up and running. What we're going to do in this lesson is just a quick demonstration of these steps right here so that we can include this video at the top of the page like you saw in some of those previous lessons. Along the way, let's see what kind of questions folks have, but I'm really excited to have the chance to do this in a shared space. So this is Visual Studio Code, which was suggested in Module 101. And I'm just going to open a new project here. Let's open a folder. Call it lesson 101.1. So now I'm going to be reading from right here as we work through this, but demonstrating the steps as we go. Okay, and then this video will serve as the supporting material for this page. So step 1 is just to grab this npx command. And npx create next app latest TypeScript. We're not creating a mesh app with a template. This is just the straight from the Next.js documentation right here. And I forgot to use the current version of Node. NVM helps you manage different versions of Node. And this points to what Bernard was saying before. I got to make sure I'm using the right version. So there it is. Oops, let's try this command again. All right, so now we're going to work through these steps right here. And this is what's illustrated in method number 1. So we can go through, what's our project called? It can be anything. I'm going to call it Mesh App 1 as suggested there. I'm going to use ESLint. I am going to use Tailwind. More on that soon. We are, for now, not going to use the source directory, but that's really up to you. And we're not going to use App Router, but that's also up to you. And I do recommend taking a look at that if you're interested in app development. And we're going to skip even using an import alias for now, because we're just going through the steps of getting a very basic project up and running for the first time. This takes a few minutes. Billy and Dylan, thanks for joining us today. It's good to see you here. Yes, Ed, absolutely.
Sure.
All right, we're up and
Yeah.
running.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, man.
And so now you can see Mesh App 1 is a new directory where I'm currently working. So let's just change into that. And if I list contents, this is pretty common for just any next project. You're going to see something that looks like this. We're not going to go through all the details right here, but this is a good place to start. Next, we want to be able to use Mesh in this project. And so there's two dependencies we have to install. This is step 2, right? So I'm going to install Mesh SDK Core and Mesh SDK React, 2 separate libraries. You can find these in the NPM documentation and in the Mesh documentation as well. Let's install them. Once those are installed, we should see them in our package.json file. Here they are. Good. So now we're ready to use Mesh, but there's a little bit more we've got to do. So step 3 has us opening the next config file and using, and I'm going to change this just to JS for now. Okay. And let's, oh no, actually that can be MJS. Well, I'll see if that breaks anything if I change that file name. But this is directly from the documentation. Once again, all I'm doing is I'm copying and pasting what's provided into my next config file. Describing everything that's possible in this file. It's a bit beyond our scope right now, but the next documentation is really good, and you can check it out anytime. Step 4, we want to open up in the pages directory this _app tsx file. And once again, all you have to do to get started is copy directly from the course page what you're supposed to paste right into here. Okay. And these are errors because I need to, watch this. I'm going to hold Control, Shift, and P to open up my preferences pane. And then I'm going to restart the TypeScript server. Oh, that didn't work yet either. All right, we're going to come back to that. And I think I have to just run the server for this to work. Let's come back to that in just a moment. And then finally, we want to go now to our main page, which in this case is index. And this has all sorts of stuff in it by default from Next. So actually, let's take a look at what this looks like together. And for other reasons, I'm just going to run this on a different server. So I'm about to run Next Dev, but I don't want it to be on the default port of 3000. I'm just going to use 3001 for this today. And so that's just a way you can really customize to any port you want. But let's just make sure this runs before we change the home page. So it looks like it's up and running. It looks like it's at localhost 3001 because that's what I just specified here. And now if I open this up in my browser, so far so good. Yeah, here's the Next.js project, okay? But I actually don't care to see all of that. So instead, I'm going to go into the index and I'm just going to delete everything. I think Nelson showed us the same thing last week. So if you've been wondering how to start a project with some of this, you're seeing it from a few different angles. And let's just say, hello, mesh PBL on the page. Now, if I go back to my browser, same URL, you can see that all of the next boilerplate is gone and we have our little message, hello, mesh PBL. Fine. Now, the last step is we want to just add, in this example, a Cardano wallet. So let's do that, right? I could actually get rid of everything on this index page right here and replace it with something even simpler, like this, right? And if I do, let's see what that looks like. Now, all I have is a little connect wallet button right here. But what's cool is that it works. So this is actually a dApp. And if you made it this far, good job. Right? Now your dApp doesn't do anything. It just connects to a wallet, but it's a pretty good place to start. And in the rest of this course, we're going to keep going by building from this application. So what did we just do? We worked through method one, starting a project manually, and you just saw these steps on my screen, right? Creating the app, choosing some parameters, installing the mesh packages, adding this right here, which we'll talk more about later, to your next config file, adding the mesh provider to your _app file, and then creating a very basic index.tsx file. We're still running the server, so we can see all the results of this right here. And that would be the conclusion of lesson 101.1. Any questions at this stage? Okay, so we're still just getting started, but let's keep going. The next lesson, we're going to go a little deeper, and we just saw that a wallet is connected. We saw that that connect wallet button works, but maybe we want to do a little more with it. Now, in this documentation, there's a few suggestions for how to get started. You can always start a brand new project following the steps in the lesson we just looked at. Or you can use the mesh starter template. And so this lesson says, for this one, let's use the starter template. And so just to show you method number 2, which we haven't worked on together yet, let's take a different approach. All right, so back in my browser, back in VS Code, I'm going to stop this development server. And I'm going to move up one directory back to lesson 101.1. I guess I could have called this module 101. And I want to make another project right next to mesh app 1. Let's close these files for now. We see we've already got this directory mesh app 1. And now if I use this command right here, we're going to create another project that's called mesh PBL module 101. We're once again going to use the starter template, and the TS right here is for TypeScript. You don't have to use TypeScript, but it does make a lot of things easier. So let's see what happens if I run this command. Okay, so we even had a timer running, right? It took 30 seconds to get that done, but that just did everything we did in the previous lesson. So we did it all by hand a moment ago, but in 30 seconds, you can have a similar project up and running, okay? These two directories, they look pretty similar. Okay. The package JSON file in the new one we just made already has mesh installed. Although, look, this is a little bit out of date, so we might actually want to upgrade those. And the next version is not the latest, okay? So we could talk about which approach is better. If you want the latest, you might want to follow the steps I just showed you in lesson 1, where we had Next 14.1 and newer versions of Mesh and Mesh React. But if you want to get started very quickly and easily, this template is provided. So always trade-offs, right? And you can see that development of these templates takes maintenance. And that's the kind of maintenance that we want to start supporting a network of people to contribute to, okay? It's one thing to make a template for the first time, but it takes a lot of time, attention, and energy to make sure that it's really kept up to date over time. All right, so which one should we use? Do people want to use the latest one that we just built together, or do you want to use the one from the template? Just because we haven't used it yet. What if we switch over to that new template that we just installed? Okay, that was the second one, Mesh PBL Module 101. This one, it looks like it used Yarn under the hood, so I'm going to use that as well. Just make sure we're up to date. And then let's try running this. Oh yeah, and hold on. I want to be running on port. Let's just use port 3001 again. I can't use 3000 because I have a different project that uses 3000. It's got all sorts of rebuilds on it, and it's really hard to remove some of that from the caches I have in this browser. That might be too much information, but just in case anybody's curious. All right, yeah, now we're running on port 3001. Let's jump over here again. And this is kind of nice to see. This is what the mesh template looks like out of the box, right? So instead of starting our own Next.js project and then adding mesh to it, if you use a mesh template, you get some nice formatting. You get a different connect wallet button. And when I connect this wallet, the result is the same. You can see my test ADA, and then there's some nice links that take you to the mesh website. And so you could start from either one of these, okay? But yeah, it took 30 seconds to get this up and running, and now we can start building within it. Any questions there? So what are we being asked to do here? Well, we connected the wallet already, but it's not that exciting. All I can do is I can see my balance, and really that doesn't change my life because I can see my balance up here. There it is. Oh, wait a minute. This is different from this. Anybody know why? It says I got 488.67 test data here.
I guess that's the token, the ADA that are locked with the tokens, but I'm not sure.
I actually don't know whether it's collateral or min UTXOs or a little bit of both. But it's kind of interesting that NAMI expresses an opinion about whether or not it should even report that value, whereas Mesh is showing us the entire balance of this address.
I guess it's both because of the difference. Collateral would be only 5, and that's more than 5.
Right, 5 and change. Always some surprises to find. I'm glad we're doing this. So we want to see a little more than that balance, whatever it is, 488 or 495. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump back into VS Code and follow these steps right here. Let's take a look. All right. First, what I don't yet have is a components directory. You can see I've got a pages and a styles directory. But what I'd like to be able to see is components. So there's a guide for how to do this. I'm going to stop my server, make a new directory called components, change into it, and then make a new file called my wallet component. Then I'm going to open that file. Here it is. And provided in the course is some boilerplate that you can copy and paste directly into your editor. So what do we have here? Well, a few things. First of all, we can see that we're using our first hook. This is the use wallet hook. It's imported not from Mesh SDK Core, but from Mesh SDK React. And it's going to make a couple of things easier on this page. Okay. Finally, we're going to take this component and we're going to use it in the main page that we were just looking at. So on that main page, once again, we saw the Cardano wallet component right here. That's this bit right here. And above that, we've got the heading, right? Mesh Next.js. So you can see that right here. Underneath the Connect Wallet button, but above the grid of other resources, let's just drop our new component in. So I'm actually just going to copy this, delete the Cardano wallet, but now add my wallet component. And if VS Code is set up well, you should be able to just see autocomplete right here, which is going to do two things. First of all, it's going to complete what I'm typing. Second of all, it's going to add a new import at the top of the page. Okay, watch lines 1 and 2 when I tap this autocomplete. All right, it just imported this component that I just built from that directory where I just built it. And if you want to be sure that you get this behavior from VS Code, just make sure to follow along with those lessons that are in Module 100, where we cover the dependencies and the extensions that you'll need in order to set up your environment. So this looks good. I can save this. And now when I jump back over to the browser, I might have to reload the page. Oh no, I don't have to reload the page. I have to start the server again. So I'm going to say yarn dev off screen. Server is running again. I'm going to refresh this page. And now I can see my wallet component. And when I connect a wallet using this button, which is a separate component, watch this. It changes, all right? Let's just watch that again just to make sure, right? So right now I'm not connected, so connected says false. But if I connect the wallet, connected changes to true. How does this work? This is all what we have in my wallet component. So we have an H2, just a little heading, bigger text. This is my wallet component. That's what we see right here. And then all we're doing is we're just taking the raw data from this hook. The use wallet hook is going to return some data that looks like this: name, connecting, connected, wallet, etc. We can store that as a variable. And then we can simply print that variable to the page using the JSON stringify command. So this is not going to look like a production grade application, but at least it's going to show us that we can get this sort of information and we can start to pull it into our app. And if you got that far, you should know you're successful, right? We wanted you to be able to initialize a project like you learned about in lesson 101.1. We wanted you to be able to use this Cardano wallet component, so we took a look at that. And there's some extra notes here about how things are styled. Right now, we're still using, right, like this looks beautiful, except for this part, I guess, because I built it. But the rest of this is built by the Mesh team, okay? And so they're giving you some nice classy styles here that look pretty good right out of the box. You can customize those later, and if you're building your own application, you'll probably want to, but you can go explore how those styles work right here. As an extension, if you want to get a step ahead, you can try to build your own component, okay? So if you want to go deeper right away, we point you to some tips here, but we're also going to reiterate this point in the assignment that's coming up at the end of this module, okay? Oh, Chris, so to the point about Yarn, Yarn is just an alternative to NPM. So if you use npm install instead of yarn add, that you'll be using the npm package manager instead of the yarn package manager. And when you do, instead of having a yarn lock file like I have right here, you'll have a package lock.json file like we had in this previous project. So in Mesh App 1, I was using npm to demonstrate this. And right here in this other project, I'm using yarn exactly the same way. Okay, and so you'll see it's a matter of taste. The specific differences between the two package managers are pretty minimal until you go really deep, but some people have strong preferences. And I just wanted people to see both ways. So we've got a working project. Let's see what we can do next. As nice as it might be to see whether or not my wallet is connected, that's still not too exciting. Maybe we want to see a little bit more information about our wallets. So what we're going to do next in lesson 101.3 is look at a little bit more information about your wallet. And to do this, we're going to make a new component that shows the list of assets in your wallet. We're not going to try to make it beautiful yet. That's going to be your homework, okay? But we can start by just taking a look at how to do this. So just like in the previous lesson, I'm going to follow these step-by-step examples. So we have a visual of how to do it, and then that video will be posted right here in the course. So let's jump back over to VS Code and keep going. So step one is to create a new component. We can do this from the command line, or we can just use the Visual Studio Code navigation. I'm just going to do it over here. I'm going to make a new file in components called my wallet asset component this time. Once again, we're providing what you need to copy and paste into this file, but it's at the moment, it's exactly the same as my wallet component. All we did is we're changing the name of this thing, okay? So we're still using use wallet right here, and we're still just stringifying that response right here, okay? So the only difference between these two components so far is the name of the component. But we're doing this on purpose. Here's why. Now, if I jump back over to the index page, I can make a copy of this bit right here. And instead of importing my wallet component, I can import my wallet asset component. There we go. That import was added to the top of the page, just like with the wallet component a moment ago. And now if I save this file and I jump back to the web browser, hopefully this is not too surprising. You're just going to see two copies of the same component, right? And if I connect the wallet, voila, they both update at the same time. Great. All right, now the reason I did it this way is because when you're building, especially with some new tools, it can be helpful just to make sure that the plumbing is working first before you dig into the details. Sorry, somebody had a question. So far, so good. So now let's keep working through the documentation and actually make this thing display assets instead. We're going to update this so that instead of using the use wallet component, which I'm going to comment out, let's create a different, excuse me, I said component. I should have said hook. I'm going to comment out the use wallet hook and instead create one for assets. And if I start to type use assets, my autocomplete right here says that I can import this from Mesh SDK React. And that's what I want. So once again, watch the import statement at the top of the page. Click on this. And now we are importing use assets in addition to use wallet. I can get rid of the use wallet import. If I do, and I uncomment this line right here, it's going to give me an error. I'm no longer importing use wallet, so it doesn't recognize that. But I actually don't need that hook right here. All right. Now, the other thing I'm going to see is that wallet is no longer a valid name. Yeah, I don't have any variables named wallet. Instead, I want to look at assets. Let's save that. And let's go back and take a look at the browser. And actually, let's change the title. This is my asset component. All right, so it'll have a different title now. And if I jump back to the browser, now you can see there's probably too many exclamation marks here. You can decide how enthusiastic you want to be. But I've got an excited wallet component and an excited asset component. And now I want to see what happens if I connect a wallet. Let's see. So connect. This hasn't changed. But holy cow, look at all of this. This wallet has a bunch of different tokens in it. It's kind of interesting. And if I connected any other wallet that had any other tokens in it, I would see those here as well. Okay. Now, this is absolutely not production ready. I can't ship this, but at least I'm getting some good information and I can try to do something with it. Any questions at this stage? Okay, so we just did this. We looked at our local host, and this is what I just tried to point out. All right, we've got some perhaps interesting data here, but it's not looking very useful. And what we really want to do is start to refine the UI a bit. Okay. Now, if you're unfamiliar with React, there's just one more thing I want you to see, right? One of the reasons React is popular is that once you build a component anywhere, you can reuse it across your application. And just to give you kind of a cartoon example of what I mean, we saw what our app looked like when I made two different components that really had the same content. But to this point about reusability, watch this. All I have to do to make the same component show up over and over again is just make a bunch of copies of it. And this is not a useful example, but it's just here to illustrate a point. Look, I just repeated this component over and over again down the page, right? That's what you're able to do. And all of those components share the same functionality. Build once, use it as many times as you want to. All right, and this works across different pages of an application, just like it works in this silly example I'm showing you, where we use it over and over again. Just checking in the chat. Yeah, Chris. Okay, so Chris has a question in the chat. Can I look for a specific policy ID in the connected wallet? Yes, you absolutely can. And that's actually an assignment at the end of this module. So I'm not going to race to give you the answer to how to do that yet. I'm going to let you sweat a little bit and try to figure it out. But this is an example of something we can do together at an upcoming live coding session, if anybody wants to jump into these details. Let me get you partway there, okay, and then challenge you to try to build that. The way we're going to get partway there is by first looking at a couple more React hooks. I just want you to have some background knowledge about some of these other built-in tools that React offers. And then we won't have time to go through the whole assignment today, but immediately following this lesson, there's an assignment, okay, where you always get to choose how far you want to go, okay? So every assignment has a set of one or more projects. Sometimes those projects are required, but some of them might be optional. And we categorize things by talking about important stuff, neat stuff, and tough stuff. All right, everybody's got to do the important stuff. That's the required bit. Neat stuff we recommend taking a look at. All right, these are projects that are designed to help you learn. And then tough stuff is challenging, but to this point of connecting with new collaborators, this was a topic that we were talking about before we went live in this meeting. Tough stuff is a way that you can show the mesh team what you know and you're able to do, so that you can kind of send them the message, hey, I'm serious about collaborating. The conditional rendering bit is a chance to think about the question that Chris just shared with us, right? So build a React component that displays different content if the wallet holds a certain asset. Now, there's some hints about how to do that in lesson 101.4, which we're going to look at right now. But this doesn't give you all the answers, okay? This is a really neat task that'll give you a chance to try a few things. And tough stuff, we don't provide any guidance about how to do this. We're really going to try to be less helpful. But if you want a tough challenge, this is the challenge right here. Build your own Cardano wallet component to replace the one that we're currently using. Now, when it comes to the important stuff, the step-by-step instructions are right here. So we're really trying to give you a lot of support while you work on the important stuff. And then the neat stuff and the tough stuff are always going to be a little bit less helpful as you work through that. All right, but we haven't done lesson 101.4 yet, so let's take a look. This lesson is a quick overview of all of the hooks that Mesh provides right out of the box. I know a lot of developers who are also building new hooks, and you can learn how to build your own. But for now, we're just going to look at what we have access to right away. And instead of using the template that we just built, we're actually going to use a repo that's dedicated to this course. It's the Mesh PBL student library. You'll learn more about this when you get to the assignment that follows this lesson. For now, let's just take a look at it. So I'm going to change my VS Code windows. We just created a nice little template from scratch, but what I really want to do is start with, here it is. Okay. Now I've already done these first steps of cloning the repo and changing into this directory. So I'm not going to show you how to do those, but you can just use these steps by copying and pasting them into your terminal. And if you're successful, you should have this directory right here. It looks like this, and I got to rename this. The public name is Mesh PBL Student Library, but I had a placeholder name right here. So if you're watching this video later, don't worry if you have the name Mesh PBL Student Library, where I have this name. Okay, so what do we have here? Well, there's a few things provided. And the first thing I want you to see is that in the pages directory, we have an index page that looks pretty similar to what we just built in lesson 101.3. But there's also an examples directory with some source code that you can look at on your own. And all of this is the source code that is described on this page right here. So if we read through this lesson, it says in the assignment that follows, we're going to suggest some ways that you can start to build, okay? But really, we're just trying to expose you to each of these hooks. Now, you already saw use wallet in the previous lesson, and here's some really quick boilerplate you can use. You already saw use assets in the previous lesson, and here's some quick boilerplate you can use. We can see that precisely the same code is already here. So here's use wallet. I'm going to leave that open. And here's use assets. Now, use wallet has one small part of the hint that's going to be helpful once you're starting to use conditional rendering, right? Here we have just a little bit of how conditional rendering works in React. We can say, okay, wallet has a parameter called connected. And if connected, which is a Boolean, true or false, if it's true, then write the message that the wallet is connected. Otherwise, write wallet is not connected. So if this is true, do this. Otherwise, do that. And let's go take a look at this behavior in our browser. So I'm going to run this project. This one is configured to run on localhost 3005, and it is up to date with the latest Next.js. Okay. So here we are in the mesh PBL contributions template. The home page looks like this. It's actually pretty much the same information we were looking at just a minute ago, but a lot of the formatting has been removed. Okay, we got rid of the centered content. So now you're able to kind of look at this data structure and think about what to do with it. We also have the examples route. And I want to look at the use wallet demo as our first example. This data right here should look familiar from our prior examples. And then below that, we have this message, wallet is not connected, which is coming from what you just saw right here. Wallet is not connected. But once the wallet is connected, what's going to happen? That text ought to change. Let's make sure that it works. Okay, connected is now true. So the message says so. Great. Similar, the use assets demo. Let's jump over to this one. And this shouldn't look too surprising after the example that we just looked at. I can connect a wallet. Good. I can see my list of assets. What does the source code for this look like? It's right here. And all we're doing is we're stringifying those assets. If there are not yet assets loaded, just put up a message that says connect a wallet to view those assets. Great. And that's covered right here in the lesson. You can copy or paste this boilerplate to anywhere, or once again, you can use the repo that's linked right here to get started. And so in the rest of this, everything's provided already. Use wallet list. Here's some boilerplate. This one actually takes, it looks at the user's browser and it looks at which wallets are installed. So if you've ever been on any dApp like a DeFi platform or a JPEG store or any other application, and you click the Connect Wallet button, often it'll show you a list of what wallets you have installed. This is a little example of how to accomplish that. So if I go over to use wallet list demo, You can see that on this browser, I only have Nami installed. But if I had other wallets, you would see other icons right here. And the reason this icon is showing up is because of this line of code right here, right? We're going to map over all of the items in this response. And for each one, we're going to display an image where the source is the icon in that item. Icon, you can see right here in the data, right? And it's a long string. It goes way off the side of my screen, okay? But this is kind of the SVG data that shows us how to draw a Nami icon. So that's that one. Use address is a very simple hook that just provides a very quick way to get the address of the connected wallet. Use Lovelace is similar to use address. It's a very quick way just to get the number of Lovelace in the connected wallet. Remember that an ADA is equal to 1,000,000 Lovelace. So you might see that you got a really big number there, but don't get too excited. Use network finally shows us whether we're using a testnet or a mainnet wallet. Okay, so over here in Nami, if I click on my little robot icon and I look at the settings, I can see that pre-prod is my currently connected network. But I can change that to mainnet or preview or the old testnet, and you can do the same. Okay, so if you've never switched to pre-prod before, that's how you do it. Click on the robot, go into network, and choose the network you want from the list. I'm going to stay on pre-prod for now. And when I go back to the example, I'm going to skip over the address and Lovelace examples because we're running out of time. But let's just take a quick look at the network one. Okay, so nothing else here. By the way, there's 2 connect wallet buttons here on purpose. It's just to show you this concept that we can reuse components and that these are responsive to each other. So if I use this one, they're both going to connect and vice versa. And you can just remove this Cardano wallet line from these demos anytime you want to. Okay, let's just use this to connect. And this says 0 is the response, and it tells me I'm connected to a Cardano testnet. Here's the source code. Use network. If network is equal to 0, write this message. If network is equal to 1, write this message. So if I go back to this wallet, okay, I can change the connection to mainnet, right? I don't have ADA on mainnet, just on testnet in this wallet. But if I refresh the page and I connect again, this time I get the number 1, and it says connected to Cardano mainnet. Okay. So that was a fast and furious overview of these hooks. You can learn more about these by clicking on any of these links here. They'll take you to the mesh documentation for the same. You can test each of these in your browser right here and learn a little bit more about how to play with them. And then, of course, we have the boilerplate provided both here, so you can copy and paste it. And all of the code you see in this lesson is available in the Mesh PBL student library, which is here on GitHub. And you've got the instructions for how to clone it locally and start to play with it. So that's going to take us to the end, but we only went 2 minutes over official time so far, and we made progress through all of Module 101. Now, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to chop up this video recording and add the parts of these lessons where I was going over these lessons live right now. And I can already tell from the way I worked through this that I want to do a better job next time. Okay. But what we're trying to do as a team is really take an iterative approach to this course. So these lessons that were just recorded here at Playground, sure, they can be used initially, but what we really want to do is build up a contribution pipeline among a network of contributors where people can share better videos about these lessons. And so if that's interesting to you, we have a budget for this that comes out of Project Catalyst, and we would love to start bringing people aboard to contribute to this project. And making better videos is just one way that we can do this work together. So that's the conclusion of this playground session that was a little bit like a live coding. How's everybody feeling? Did you learn anything?
It's great. Great. It's very logical. It flows in the level of complexity. It's awesome. Thanks.
Bernard, I really appreciate hearing that. Thank you. Thank you. Chris, it's nice to have you here today. Thanks for dropping by. And if you have feedback as you start to play with this stuff, please let me know. What we didn't do is we didn't look at the assignment together. So feel free to really jump into this, try to get it to work. If anybody works through the important stuff, let us know if all of this makes sense and if it works for you, or if we need to change anything. And we're going to add that information about making commitments very soon. Okay, so I noticed a few typos while I was working, and we got to finish this bit right here. But like I said, in addition to developing this course, we're also upgrading Dandelion in real time. There's more to come on that as well. Okay. So that's the end of our official session for today. Anything else we should all be thinking about before we close out? Bernard, that's awesome. Yeah, if you and your team and everybody you're teaching has a chance to go through this, our team would love to get feedback. This is such a good way for us to collaborate.
Maybe a quick plug for any Project Catalyst proposals you might have in?
Anytime. John, do you have any?
No, not this time around.
Yeah, we're excited. We got a couple of proposals for Andamio. There's one for the core development of the Andamio platform. And then there's one to build a Go Cardano PBL course. So we were just looking at Mesh PBL, which is there to support all of our friends in the JavaScript and TypeScript world. We want to give a similar treatment to Go, and there's an emerging ecosystem there. It will be wonderful to both demonstrate to students what's already available, but also to invite contribution to the ongoing work of building out libraries like Bursa and Apollo. So pumped about this one. Seb, do you want to say a word or two about the Gimbalabs proposals?
Yeah, it's about as you can check. This is a work in process, and we have in Andamio a really talented team, and we are doing a incredible work, putting different pieces of the Cardano protocol and in a single package, but a functional package that has some sense to the real life, the real world, and this world that gives people only money in exchange of tasks and projects. In Andamio, we think that we can change that way of thinking. we can give people contribution, a sense of contribution, and in return, mainly because the money is a fact, because people have to pay bills, but you have a better food on your table, on your family table, when you have some sense of contribution. So Andamio provides that, and I think we can build a kind of network where different organizations can connect each other and provide to the users and the people in general a network, a joint network, when can serve better to the people in general. So our two proposals are about supporting our team, the Andamio core team, and the other is a contribution to the specific developer ecosystem. And the specifics of the open source Cardano Go libraries, James can comment it in a more deep way. But both proposals have in common that is the main goal is supporting the work that we are doing currently in the Andamio team. That's it for them. Thank you.
Right. And Bernard, I know that you've dropped some links into the Gimbalabs Discord, but is there anything you want to give a plug for in this space?
Thanks, James, very much. I think most of your proposal for fund levy, I have already looked at them, because you are our priority number one. You are this is the only group that has got that person-to-person interaction we need to support all the time. Unless if there are some other members. I see you gave me this one, which is a link tree, and I viewed it, and I've seen there is quite a lot that I didn't have before. On my part, let me send our africacardano.live website. So it has got, let me check it, that it is running fine. If you can click it. Sorry, I spelled it correctly, wrongly, supposed to be. Let me correct that. The opposite is cardanoafrica.live. Can I share my screen in 1 minute to highlight our proposals?
James, you're on mute.
You're muted, James.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Absolutely, Bernard. Thank you, Harsha. Thanks, Nori. And I know we're over time, so if anybody has to jump, we'll see you real soon. But thanks for taking the time to take a look at this. Yes, sir.
All right. I'm dealing with tertiary students, graduates in computer science, and third-year students. So we have been doing it ever since I've been with Gimbalabs. But now our group has gone bigger. And then even in this last year, this is the different groups that
We're not getting the full sound from that, but
Right.
these visuals, yeah, it's beautiful. It's you
Yeah.
guys have been you've been doing the real work.
On the website there, cardanoafrica.live, there are two videos. You'll see the first one, you'll see the second one. I just played the second one, just a piece to explain our success. Our success has been through a lot of effort, but we have never been funded. And so our resources are very small. From one room office, I've managed almost every day. I have a different group of five. And I've got some of my students there who have joined here, Dylan and Billy. So our request is instead of like forcing ourselves to be running this, because we have got an agreement, an MOU with a tertiary institution, Richfield. They give us our third year students every time, and then we run through them with the Cardano, a type of work integrated learning on Cardano staff. And then also when they graduate and do their internship, they come. This is how the relationship is there. So what we have requested on this proposal is if we can have some resources extend. For example, I bought computers around 20, I bought laptops, but still the numbers have grown too big. The campus manager has even said if Charles comes to Johannesburg, he must come to Richfield to see the whole university campus. Before all this, I did all this. No one knew about Cardano, or no one cared about it. But because this is a Cardano a growth strategy that integrates our activities with the local activities in giving these computer science skills, but the skills we focus the mostly are on the IT of Cardano side, because once they are very good in Cardano, even nationally here within South Africa, they will get very good jobs. So what are the IT resources that we want to extend? From a one office, we would like to have another bigger office, which can accommodate at least at one time 25 to 30, where they can work in groups like that. Because currently now we have to rent a venue every month to run a bigger event. Otherwise, I have to split them into five, and then I provide them with their transport, with the food. If you go to the website, you will see our activities that are running every day. The other things is resources like we need printers to produce the material that we have. For example, we have got this excellent mesh course. So when I am giving it to them, I need to give them in a booklet that has been bound and printed nicely. They can do it electronic online, but they can also have a booklet. So on their IT Expo last year, that is what I promised them. So that is what we would like to buy again. And we would like to have some full-time one lady administrator, because it has grown so much and is growing too much. Proof is number one. Another university, UJ, the lecturers there, they have seen what we have done here. They have also students there who have graduated, who have not been employed, and they have liked this thing, and they have requested us also to do a joint venture, which means there is a growth whereby this year I'm not only going to be running one campus of Richfield. Richfield has got 12 campuses nationally in South Africa, and we are only doing the first one, which is Newtown. And the second one is if we get UJ again, it's a very big university in South Africa, in Johannesburg. So that is the main application that we have. Let me stop here to answer some questions. Then I've got the other two proposals. Of interest is the one for where these students with Gimbalabs, you can go through that. You will see we supply Cardano new developers like what we are doing, but we give them what we call a live technical support, similar to what James has done to us now. It's live, it's progressional from here to here. If there is a bug there, James is there to say, oh, this is caused by a bug in the version by this. When you go home, you try, you fail tomorrow, you meet again, and then it carries on. So that is what we are saying to say, if we are funded on this one where we want to supply a live technical support to Mesh, technical support to Haskell, technical support to Helios, and to these other technical areas within Cardano, we will collaborate with the communities that are already expert there and utilize our unemployed IT graduate students in running a full-time technical support 24/7 on different time zones, so that if anyone is on Mesh and he has a problem, and then Gimbalabs is meeting on Tuesday and Thursday, but this person is having a problem on Sunday, or is having a problem on a Wednesday, at least there is a live area chart where when he gets in there, there are, you know, those agents. We normally have got these AI agents, but we have people like, then they connect via Zoom, and then they are taken through maybe a 30 minutes or a 1 hour, what we call a technical walkthrough. This type of support, I've called it oxygen, because oxygen is an ingredient that I need now. If I don't have it, or I postpone to say I need it tomorrow, I am a dead man. That is what is happening in Cardano. When I take Mesh, I have been with Mesh for a long time with this very same thing. I went to a certain level, I got stuck. I went to Mesh and posted questions. I never got answers. And then later on, when I came back, but I'm waiting, so I get stuck. But some of us, we only make money through these things. So if support is delayed, then it has to mean I have to dump this whole structure all along and go back to the other things that give me money. So that is why if there is a live technical support, that is another probably a superset or a subset of Gimbalabs. Because Gimbalabs, you are going to help us. You are experts in this. You are going to train our IT students in this. And then they are going to be certified in Gimbalabs. And then they are going to work with all these different companies supporting live. And then that second project, we have stated it down that we will pay, because for anyone on Gimbalabs to sacrifice his hour with this, at least if there is an incentive, then we are guaranteed of success. We want to measure also the decline in the number of complaints about Cardano technical things like Haskell, like smart contract development, like all these. Some of them are just negativities. But if there is a support, then immediately you are pointed there, and then like a help desk, you get to that help desk. There's somebody you talk to who will explain. The other thing that is an advantage with this oxygen application is when somebody comes and say, I want to do a smart contract like on Ethereum that will do 1, 2, 3, 5, then I have a chance there to do the prerequisite and assess, like in a hospital, triage, to say, is this person ready to start here? Then if he's not ready, then we can then go sideways to start with the prerequisites, all the way from the hardware, the operating system, and until the person is ready. That is the second one. Then the third one is all about implementing smart contract on property. Currently now we are working with a property with municipalities. I've developed apps that they are running on 2 provinces with the municipalities on disconnection, reconnection, property rates, and meter locations. There is a problem of number one, they are using paper. those that are using systems, ones that are using systems, they are always changing data so that they invoice higher. So you find it's a back and forth situation. And the nice thing is I've got connections with these people. So when I do this for a national project on house property, for example, property locations, meter locations, and then meter conditions, GPS locations of all this, using a smart contract on Cardano, and we open source all these things and we document them and then we support them. Some of the things will be too difficult for us. Therefore, we will come to Cardano technical gifted people bridge that gap, because some of the smart contracts we will require it's not only one, maybe two, three talking to each other to accomplish something that can be used nationally. If we manage to break through with this use case, then later on we can exploit to all other areas in the world. Basically, there are three proposals that we have done. One is for tertiary onboardment, expansion of the resources to cater for the fast growing. And then the second one is for technical support, because without technical support, like what Gimbalabs is now, Gimbalabs is offering all this for free. You see, and had it been my way, it should have been approached in a different way. We could have expanded this whole service, because even when you go to very difficult areas where people are learning mathematics, you need a mathematics tutor who is experienced and qualified. You don't give those students just videos and everything and hope out of it something's gonna come out. Only a few, maybe 1% smart people, they are going to make it through. But the rest, what about the 99? And then that's a huge loss again. So those are our proposals. Your support, we are also supporting. We will support you. If you go to a lot, if especially for example, Cardano Foundation is offered a certified associate certificate. I did it and I got that certificate of training of participation. But inside there, I told them, why is Atala Prism not here? Why is Gimbalabs not here? If they are there, you are not covering enough. But because these are key pillars of services that we are getting on the communities that we know, we don't want this to die. So that is why we are saying, even if sometimes we are not here, we are busy marketing you. The only thing, there is no way where you can say, uh, who who referred you to us. Then people will tell you Spanat. So that is all what we are asking for. We are very grateful for the support you have given us before. And then we are very grateful for those who are going to support us with our votes. And anyone here, like Gimbalabs, if you have got some proposals, we are going to try by all means to support them with what we have. And we have got some communities again who just also motivate them. But it will be better if some of you are there and they are there and to really see the people behind. But we have got that spreadsheet that have got good ratings for you. So that also covers our back. From that, let me stop here and ask for questions, comments, corrections. You are welcome. Thank you very much, James and everybody.
Man, you're doing the real work, brother. And I know it's not easy. Thank you. It's I know we've been at this for a long time. You and Wims and now Cardano Africa and Gimbalabs. And let's keep building towards that world where, hey, you're still sharing screen, just so you know. Let's keep building towards that world where this kind of low hype, in-person building that you're talking about continues to plant roots. It is the way forward. We know it. But it's not easy right now, but we're making progress, right? And thank you for your partnership so far. I see good
Thank
things.
you. Thank you.
I don't need to be convinced. You've got my vote, Bernard. Anybody else have questions about any of that? All right, so hey, here's to everything to come. I know that you've invited the Gimbalabs crew down to Johannesburg before, but let's try to make that happen sometime in the next few years. Let's do this because there is something real here, and I know that we're among the people doing the real work. So let's keep doing it. Let's figure out how to support each other,
Awesome.
make big
Thanks
plans.
a lot. Thanks. I think Sebastian in 2022 he supplied that video that I played, and it helped a lot. And then last year, if you go through that documentation when I was presenting to them, I went through all the Cardano communities that I know. Even Dylan is here. He already knows about you because you are one always in my, what do you call it, when I'm telling them about where they are going to get what you call networking, and then where they are going to work, and then where they are going to learn after graduation with Cardano. And Dylan, if you've got any questions here, these are the people you can go to for help. And then we've got others who are not there. You can tell them you have met. These are experts in Cardano ecosystem services and products. And I want you and the other graduates to always attend Gimbalabs online. It's just 1 hour every time. If you can't attend, we have got the office there, or you have got it home, because I pay for data. Give all of them data. I don't want an excuse. And then it's a very good cause, because at the end of the day, I don't want to see a bunch of young people sitting around degrees in computer science without jobs. And on the other side, this side, we don't have even documentation where they can be utilized and trained for bigger jobs. So it's a win-win from what I have seen. The resources are only needed. And if we are running that in a partnership, we will really need a properly, a proper relationship that is reliable. I don't want to promise you something and then tomorrow I've got another, I change, I have another color. No, that one, it will compromise me, because in future when I need help, I won't get it the way I've got it before. So if anyone has got a question, has got a contribution, you are welcome.
Here's to making the sparks, right? I think we've got a lot of the parts we need. And I can't help thinking you're talking about oxygen as kind of life support, Bernard. But you also need oxygen to start a fire, don't you? So let's support each other, provide that support. But let's also, you know, really light that fire. And I think once we get it to start to burn, we're going to be really excited about sustaining things. But the hardest part is getting that initial spark. We're getting there.
Oh, awesome. I'm very happy, James, with this one. I want to put it this way. Even if we are not funded, 2024, I want to see it at least running. We'll run with the limited resources and see how far we can technically work together and support each other. Thank you so much.
You bet. And you've described what we're trying to build with Andamio, right? That pipeline from learning to contributing. And so this is everything that's going on at Cardano Africa. Hey, is WIMS still a thing, or is it fully transitioned over to Cardano Africa?
I've got 3 communities, 2 companies and 1 community.
Okay.
The registered South African blockchain company is
Mhm.
Women in Move Solutions, which we always know me as WIMS.
Okay.
It's a shortcut for Women in Move Solutions. That one is a registered PTY company
Great.
in South Africa, and we are compliant. It started in 2018, remember, on Ethereum. Then we migrated into Cardano in 2021. And then prior to that, I'm the founder of an IT consulting company called Top Technologies, where we do IT consulting in all levels nationally, this side. And then in 2022, when we were doing what we call tertiary onboarding, it was not my project. It was a project for Nana and Kaelo, the other 3 you saw. Those 3 applied for funds to say they want to do onboarding youth in Johannesburg. It was not in Johannesburg, in South Africa. That was in 2022. And then later on, after interviewing different people about South Africa, they circled for me to assist them, and also in Johannesburg, because in Johannesburg we have got a WIMS community. The
Mhm.
WIMS community is there. It has got like right now. I'm talking to you. They've got their own social media. They've got their own activities they are doing, and we have got girls in schools, in high schools. Those we are sponsoring on IT, WIMS Cardano Girls Education. So you will see a lot of some of the website we are posting there. So the WIMS community is the one that is the foundation of the Cardano Africa Life. The Cardano Africa Life came about when they were asking me to plan. I said to them, you know what? You can't come here in Johannesburg and ask me to take all my communities to run a 1-day event. Then it ends there. And then when we are gone, I'm left with my community. They will be asking for, hey, we enjoyed that thing. When is it gonna come? And then I say to them, well, hey, they were here. I'll try to get them back again. So I told them, no, let's have something that we will do and probably have continuity and growth, because we are Cardano. We want growth in Cardano, not for short term, for long term. And then we did that first. That was December 12th for a day. And then when that was done, then from there I went on with the students. And when I went on with the students in 2023, and then again, I wrote an application to Richfield, who knew Top Technologies, that now we would like to put Cardano at the center of this training. And would like to make my office, which was a Top Technology 1-room office, a walk-in center for Cardano, so that this also or anyone else can come and do shows, do research like that. Then it succeeded because even without Cardano funding, the whole of 2023, all the way up until the summit for Johannesburg. On the summit for Johannesburg, I was not funded. I had to use WIMS funds, Top Funds, another company called Satoshi Funds, which I make locally, to get all these activities running to where they are. I enjoy it. That is number 1. Number 2, it is benefiting the community, and there is a future in Cardano. We believe, we see there is a future. That is why, even without funds along here, there are roots. There is a strong foundation. Although, remember, in this type of continent, it's a growing economy. It's a little bit different. You can have big numbers sometimes, like one show I had 100 people there. Nice t-shirts, caps, singing, dancing, Cardano. Then those things didn't have continuity, because in all those groups, a lot of them left. Why? I think it's because of unemployment, short-term things. Sometimes it doesn't benefit them. That is why this strategy, Cardano Africa Live, is a project. It's not yet a registered company. It is a project of whims, but which is centered on blockchain, on Cardano, with tertiary institutions. So that is how I will say about the whims, the top technologies, the Satoshi and Cardano Africa Live.
Well, thanks for the inspiration. Yeah.
Yes, if
Yeah.
anyone wants to try something with the tertiary on computer science, on IT, whatever, or he has got something that he wants to roll out, there is a what to call it, there is a play field for this type of a thing, because the students, technical students, they are exposed to good skills that they
We're
need.
gonna, it'll be exciting to get that treasury system into their hands so you guys can start to play with it. All right, that's to come. Hey, I gotta jump for now, little over time. But Bernard, I'm so glad you caught us today, and let's make sure to keep these conversations open, okay? And make sure, yes, everybody, make sure to vote for these proposals, and we can maybe do a little campaign around these ones. All right, looking forward to getting results of voting, figuring out what we're doing next, and keep on keeping on. Here's to building. Thanks for being here, everybody. See you soon.